Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Weekly Oscar Talk. Very special episode because today we have all three hosts here. I'm joined by Anthony and Ben to talk about a lot of fun stuff today.
Hey
And
everyone.
awkward silence. And we are going to start off with some news before we get into some of the movies to talk about and discuss. Starting off with, we just missed this last week. It released like an hour after we recorded, sadly. The Academy revealed their shortlists for the 94th Oscars, which included some surprising snubs. Going over them quickly, let's start off with documentary feature. I haven't seen like any of these, but the shortlisted ones were Ascension, Attica, Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, Faya Dai, The First Wave, Flea, In the Same Breath, Julia, President, Procession, The Rescue, Simple as Water, Summer of Soul, The Velvet Underground, and Writing with Fire. Any thoughts here? I'm very lost with this category because I haven't seen any.
I have two. I'm really happy Flea is shortlisted. It's going to get two nominations, which I'm really happy about. And also, round of applause that the Mayor Pete documentary did not get shortlisted. I'm very happy about this. Clap, clap, clap. Delighted. Other than that, I have no idea. But I want to watch all of them before I make a judgment, especially Flea. I've been waiting for that for so long.
Yeah.
Could Flea get in three? Because could it get in documentary, animated, and international feature? Is that possible for that movie?
It is possible, yeah. It could get in all three.
Exciting.
Wait, was
If it will, mystery. But we'll have to see.
I'm happy that Summer of Soul is here.
Yeah.
Which is one I put it as an honorable mention of one of the best movies of the year. However, as Jack has alluded to in the past, if you're the front runner in documentary, you may not get nominated.
Exactly.
So I'm still crossing my fingers that that one gets in.
They never nominate the front runners for either international. Well, sometimes for international, but as we've seen this year, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But then also documentary, there's always a snub, which is like it's very frustrating because then everyone goes in with this idea like, okay, Titan's probably going to win, and then it doesn't even get the shortlist, and then it's like Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. No, what's it called? Won't You Be My Neighbor? Is going to win, and it wasn't even nominated. Three Identical Strangers.
Identical Strangers. That was the bigger one for me.
Yeah.
They always snub the front runners.
Yeah.
Always.
Last year they did a bunch too, like Dick Johnson Is Dead, all those. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
And My Octopus Teacher won, which I know was a controversy.
Yeah. I hadn't seen My Octopus Teacher. I'm not big on the documentaries, personally.
I love them. My Octopus Teacher was quite good, to be honest. I liked it.
Yeah, nice. Now, international feature film. The shortlisted nominees here are The Great Freedom, Playground, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, Flea, Compartment Number 6, I'm Your Man, Lamb, A Hero, The Hand of God, Drive My Car, Hive, Prayers for the Stolen, The Worst Person in the World, Plaza Catedral, and The Good Boss. Notable snub here is obviously Titan not making it.
Well, I'm so thrilled they shortlisted Lamb. It's such an ambitious thing for them to do. Like, ideally, I'd love to see Lamb, Flea, and The Worst Person in the World all get nominated. That would be, like, perfection. Like, that would be so good. And Lamb is just, it's the type of movie that, you'd wish would get more recognition. Like, that's the type of movie where, like, oh, God, this is the type of film that, that people should be talking about, and people aren't really talking about it. But the fact that I made the shortlist, I'm really happy about it. So good, so happy for that.
Yeah, it's interesting that they went with Lamb is a risky film that they decided to shortlist, but not Titan, which I think had much more hype than Lamb did. But I hope this doesn't stop France from taking risks in who they pick, because lots of people thought they would pick a safe movie, like they have in past years when they picked Les Miserables over like Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But I hope this snub doesn't stop them from picking the riskier movies than the more acceptable.
Well, it's ridiculous that it's limited, that one country can only submit one movie. I think that's horrendous, like really bad.
Yeah. I do think that it's interesting. People are saying, first off, congrats to Lamb, because it was one of the films I've seen on this list, and it was very interesting and creative. But I think the thing with Titan, compared to Lamb, because a lot of people were saying, like, comparing those two, like, why is Lamb, which is a weird movie, getting in and Titan wasn't? Lamb is thematically not like that hard to get on board with. The conceit of this Lamb child is, but the movie itself is not thematically hard to get into. Titan is very aggressive. It's very, talking about gender fluidity and stuff. And I feel like for a lot of older Academy members, it may be inaccessible. I think it should have been here. I think it should have won this category. But I'm not surprised that it didn't get on the short list, because honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if it didn't get nominated. So it just missed a step here.
Yeah.
But it's a nice list, even though it's missing Titan, which is a really wonderful film. But yeah, worst person in the world I've heard great things about. I'm wondering if Drive My Car now becomes the front runner with all the group support. That would be my pick.
Yeah, I think that would be the front runner. I think lots of people have that as their number 10 in Best Picture too. I'm still unsure about that, but I think it's definitely the front runner here.
I want to watch The Worst Person in the World because I really identify with the title, and I really want to see how that goes.
I don't think it comes out, at least here in the US, until like February, which sucks.
Well, now you know how it feels.
Yeah, exactly. It does stink. Yeah. So that's international feature. Next up, makeup and hairstyling. 10 films here. Shortlisted films are Coming to America, Cruella, Cyrano, Dune, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, House of Gucci, Nightmare Alley, No Time to Die, The Suicide Squad, and West Side Story. There's something, any snubs here? I feel like there's something missing.
Was Last Night in Soho on this list?
No. It was not, no.
Maybe that is a possible snub. I don't know about the win or getting the nomination. I think this is a pretty good list. I'm happy to see Cruella on the list, because I think like the costumes and the makeup and hair were very daring in the movie, and I think they did a nice job with that. You have your Eyes of Tammy Faye's and your House of Gucci's in there, which it's always interesting. Like this category, are they going to go with like the Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad, which is more risky and different in their makeup and hair? Or are they going to go with like the Vices, the Bombshells? And so I'm interested to see what type of year we have. I'm tending to lean Eyes of Tammy Faye, like that type of makeup. Especially if Chastain gets nominated. If she gets nominated for Best Actress, then I do think Eyes of Tammy Faye wins. If she doesn't get nominated, then I think it's a little uneven ground for that film.
Yeah.
There is a snub, Spencer.
Yeah, I was going to say Spencer and Being the Ricardos also, I think is a semi.
I mean, they're not really snubs. I didn't think the makeup in Spencer.
They're not
because I didn't like the movie that much, but I just wasn't really impressed with the makeup. It was there. I just didn't see the transformation. She looked like Kristen Stewart, just like kind of brushed down a bit. So I can kind of see maybe why, but it's also unnecessary having like West Side Story there, which I'm sure has like good makeup, but like, what does it have? I'm sure it's good though.
Yeah. It's not anything super showy. They tend to go with the showy stuff here. So I would say it's between Eyes of Tammy Faye and Gucci here, because they have the Jared Leto stuff going on in Gucci, and they love that stuff. But yeah, I would say those two are the front runners in there.
Could be.
I mean, I will give it a little credit that, you do get the lifetime
makeup is good
of Patrizia Reggiani in the makeup and the hair. Like she definitely, you see the progression of the decades in how they change it. It's similar to how the Irishman's costume design changed with the decades. I don't necessarily think that means you get the win, but I think this nomination makes a lot more sense than like the costume nomination that House of Gucci inevitably get.
Agreed. So that's makeup and hairstyling. Next is music original score. 15 scores here, including Being the Ricardos, Candyman, Don't Look Up, Dune, Encanto, The French Dispatch, The Green Knight, The Harder They Fall, King Richard, The Last Duel, No Time to Die, Parallel Mothers, The Power of the Dog, Spencer, and Tragedy Macbeth. I think the only snub here is Cyrano, and I think everything else is pretty much as expected.
I love seeing Don't Look Up and Candyman on this list. I think it's unlikely they're both going to get nominated, but ideally I think they both would, because particularly Candyman, that was really good. But it probably won't be nominated. They'll probably just nominate like Being the Ricardos instead of it, which is a shame. But like Candyman was really good.
Yeah, I think Candyman is a nice surprise. I don't think it'll get nominated, but I do think Don't Look Up will definitely be nominated in score. We'll talk about the movie later, but I thought the score was really good, and they do really like Nicholas Bertel. So
that's what helped it is the Nicholas Bertel. I mean, I feel like this category is Dune, and we're done. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, Dune's win.
We're good. Dune's in there. Oh, and Johnny Greenwood. I want Johnny
He's the
Greenwood
only
to be nominated. I would love if he was a double nominee, Alexander Desplat style, but I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Spencer is performing at that level. But him getting in there for Power of the Dog is good enough for me because I think his work this year, specifically on that film, was incredible.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think nothing else for Hiller is really surprising. Parallel Mothers is continuing to do well in score. So I think that could sneak in.
Which, out of all the categories, I'm shocked.
It's interesting.
This is the one where it's showing up.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, not that it's I haven't seen the film yet. I want to, but it's not that I don't think it's not deserving. It's just like I would have thought that like Pedro Almodovar or the actors, international feature, like those would have been more likely places to give it a nomination.
Yeah, it is interesting. At least it probably means they've seen it. So yeah. So that's best score. Now original song, we have So May We Start from Annette, Down to Joy from Belfast, Right Where I Belong from Brian Wilson, The Promised Road, Automatic Woman from Bruised, Dream Girl from Cinderella, Beyond the Shore from Coda, The Anonymous Ones from Dear Evan Hansen, Just Look Up from Don't Look Up, Dos Orguitas from Encanto. What kind of choice is that? Somehow You Do from Four Good Days, Guns Go Bang from The Harder They Fall, Be Alive from King Richard, No Time to Die from No Time to Die, Here I Am Singing My Way Home from Respect, and Your Song Saved My Life from Sing 2. Cyrano didn't get any song here. I think that's the big snub. But having seen Encanto now, that's a weird song to choose for your nomination,
well,
in my opinion.
One that makes you cry. It's definitely like you look at something like Mary Poppins Returns, where it's like you have a bunch of these bigger, showier songs, and they nominate the heartfelt one, and because they think that's the one that's going to get them the win. Not that those type of songs aren't deserving, but like not only would I much rather give the nomination to this song, but I much rather see We Don't Talk About Bruno be performed at the Oscars.
Yeah,
it's like I don't need sad song after sad song.
The fact that the cover is not the book was not performed at the Oscars, which was the only enjoyable part of that 2-hour torture fest that was Mary Poppins Returns, and they did not nominate that song. I was so angry because like that was the best part for me, and like it's the only one that I've ever listened to afterwards. Like, what was the place where the Lost Things Go? Was that what was nominated?
That was the one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Although we were saved from having Lin-Manuel Miranda perform, which I was happy about that year because I was not having it. I just wasn't.
He's everywhere this year.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's doing good.
It's like how City of Stars is like my least favorite song in La La Land, and yet that's the one that wins. It's like the song. It's like they pick what they think is going to win. And that being said, I really hope like the No Time to Die's, like the actual. We've talked about this, I think, in the past. That the actual songs get in instead of these credit songs from like Belfast and Coda and a couple others, the King Richard. Like I don't know. I'm not for nominating credit songs because I don't think the whole point is we're honoring what's in the movie, and these things are barely in the movie. They don't actually are part of the narrative. So I always have an issue with that.
It's like with Eurovision nominating a song that was integral to the film. I think No Time to Die and Just Look Up actually play a part in the plot of the movies that they're in. So I'd like to see those nominated. Also because I think they're good songs. Like it'd be fun to see them performed.
Definitely. Yeah, I think those two definitely will get in there. Probably along with I don't know what else. And then probably the Encanto song.
King Richard.
Beyonce. Yeah. And maybe probably the Belfast song,
I feel like Belfast and Coda are fighting for that. We're a Best Picture nominee. Give us a credit. I mean, I think Van Morrison is behind the Belfast song, which makes me lean.
He is.
Belfast. I also think Belfast is going to be the bigger performer overall, though Coda is rising. So, yeah.
It is. I would still lean Belfast, but also good for, Camila Cabello getting in for Cinderella. At least she's getting something out of that. Interesting. She won't be nominated. We're gonna skip the short stuff because we have no clue what any of those are. So we will have no commentary. So now on to Best Sound. The shortlisted titles are Belfast, Dune, Last Night in Soho, Matrix Resurrections, No Time to Die, Power of the Dog, A Quiet Place Part 2, Spider-Man No Way Home, Tick Tick Boom, and West Side Story. Pretty good. Spider-Man surprised here. I wasn't expecting to see Spider-Man get in.
We'll talk about Spider-Man later.
We will talk about Spider-Man in the next category.
I mean, we usually see like Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, visual effects and the 2 sound. I think The Last Jedi was nominated for 4. Force Awakens for 5. So usually the Christmas Disney or Disney adjacent movie gets in the sound category, and I feel like that's this case with Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man's just going to fill the void that Star Wars has now left, given that the sequel trilogy's done.
The Last Jedi got, I think, 5 nominations. That one was actually really strong. I think
it got 4. It got score, both sounds, and visual effects. Force Awakens had 5 because it also picked up editing. Yeah, and I think Rise of Skywalker only got 1 of the sounds because
of visual effects and score.
And score.
Yeah.
The best sound in that movie was the sound of the credits blaring because it was over.
Agreed. That was my favorite part as well.
I missed you, Ben. I missed you.
I missed you too.
Oh God! Wait until we get Don't Look Up. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I would say the front runners here are West Side Story and Dune.
Dune and Tick Tick Boom, I think, could be possible.
Yeah, I think that too. I would like for A Quiet Place Part 2 to get in, but I doubt it.
I mean, it should.
It should, yeah. They'll probably think that like we already nominated that like shtick the first time or whatever.
Yeah, but it lost to Bohemian Rhapsody, which I'm still not over with. That's one of the
worst.
That
won both of the sound ones.
Oh God!
It won 4 Oscars. It should have been nominated for Annie. Like
Bohemian Rhapsody has won more Oscars than The Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Ugh, that movie. Forever smudge on Oscar history. Okay, now into visual effects. The shortlisted films: Black Widow, interesting choice. Dune, Eternals, Free Guy, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Godzilla vs. Kong, Matrix Resurrections, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. All 4 Marvel films somehow, yet Finch doesn't. That disappoints me.
The visual effects in every Marvel movie this year were horrible. I'd say the best one for visual effects was Black Widow because I had the least amount of them.
Maybe.
Eternals really disappointed me because that was the one thing I was looking forward to, and they were not that great. Shang-Chi had really horrible green screen, and Spider-Man No Way Home, that was probably the thing that I hate in the Marvel movies. You know when you have like that smoke, like on the highway fight, like they have like the fire and the smoke, it just sort of blurs up the screen and like you can't really see what's going on. That's like one thing in that movie for me was like the movie's so dark half the time, like you cannot see all 3 of the people, like to get like the 3 people who come into the movie, and it's really exciting that they're there.
I wonder who hasn't seen the movie.
I have no idea. But I would have loved to have been able to see them properly, and I would have loved for them to have like a really cool like I think the best Spider-Man film for VFX is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, as poor as it is. Like
that's a great movie.
That's why I like it so much, is because the visual effects, they nail it. And this film did not. It really didn't. Which
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the most beautiful live action Spider-Man movie. Yeah. And the Spider-Verse beats it. But here, I think only one Marvel movie will get it, and I do think it will be Spider-Man. I think all the other ones will not get in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So I think Dune is winning, first off. Done. Yeah. I think Spider-Man will get in. I think... And then I'm toying with... I think Matrix will get in. I'm toying with the idea of like, is Don't Look Up your like 1917 of like it's a small effects, but
it wasn't shortlisted though.
Oh, was it? Oh, never mind.
No.
So that's surprising because I feel like that's the type of nomination that they would
all
do.
Blockbusters here.
So then maybe Free Guy because they nominated Ready Player One, and that seems a very comparable movie in terms of its effects. Yeah, I don't see them nominating 2. I don't think the last time they nominated 2 Marvel movies in one year was 2014, where they did Winter Soldier and Guardians. So I don't see them doing it again. I don't think X-Men was nominated that year. It might have been.
I don't think so.
But yeah, so I don't see them doing more than two. I'll defend Spider-Man's visual effects. I think they're better than the majority of these other visual effects. I agree that but I do agree. I think Black Widow gets a little too shat on because there's not much visual effects in the movie.
Yeah. To be fair, like it had one really bad green screen shot, where the one with Yelena throwing the thing in it. Really that was horrible. Shang-Chi had like several really terrible green screen shots where it's like it took me out of the movie. It's like Michelle Yeoh is not there. Those people are not fighting in the background. Like and this man had bracelets on. Like I did not find it believable. But that's just me. That's like my big problem with that movie, the VFX.
Yeah. I had some issues with Spider-Man too because I felt like, certain actors who are probably all very busy were not on the same set at all, and they were all like CGI'd in at the same time. I think
it was more COVID than being busy.
Yeah. I
thought the Doctor Strange VFX were really poor as well. Like I thought they were really bad. The portals looked ridiculous to me, and they've looked really good in the past, like really good. And
I think they were.
I wish they still had the color palette of the first Doctor Strange movie. I think that would have like solved most of its problems with me personally, because I think that film is visually stunning. I think this film is not. But that's just.
I'll say this: as much as I'm defending the visual effects, you watch the teaser for Doctor Strange 2, and the visual effects look so much more intriguing and better color corrected there. So even I'm like. Yeah. It was good, and I think it's better than the majority of Marvel visual effects. But you look at Doctor Strange 2, you're like, okay, never mind. Like, there's definitely room to grow.
I was actually infuriated at the end of it because I was like, seriously, Doctor Strange 2 is not going to look good. Like, it looked horrible, like visually. And I was just so used to not looking at something nice for all of Spider-Man No Way Home. And so then I'm looking at this, and then I saw the trailer. I was like, thank God, it actually looks really good. So they should have fixed it before they aired it, but like I don't know why they did that. Whatever. It looks good now.
It does. Hopefully, it stays looking good. But yeah, I would say visual effects: Dune, Matrix, Spider-Man.
No Time to Die? Is that on this list?
I'd say No Time to Die and Godzilla vs. Kong would be my fifth.
I would Free Guy instead of Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, that's possible too. So those are all the shortlisted categories. Not a ton of crazy stuff, but some crazy stuff. And our other big news title here before we get into some reviews, Spider-Man No Way Home has been the talk around Tinseltown for a while now, especially because they have decided to run a campaign for the movie, pushing it for Best Picture, amongst other things. Our people had a reaction to that for some reason. These studios push every movie they have. I mean, they're going to push freaking Cinderella, which has terrible reviews. So I don't know why people were surprised by that. You see FYC ads everywhere for everything, and some of them are funny to look at. This one's credible. And also, Tom Holland said he was open to hosting the Oscars ceremony. I would say no, thank you.
Nobody asked.
I don't want to host.
We're going to need to pull people in somehow. This is going to be one of the lowest, watched ceremonies, and I think the no host thing works with the pace of the show, but it doesn't, people are not being brought in. Granted, it doesn't help that you can just keep up with who's winning on Twitter on your phone, and you don't have to watch to be part of the Oscars. But I do think in terms of this year, we've had so many, we keep talking about it every week, the box office disappointments of these possible contenders. If Tom Holland hosted, or a Zendaya hosted, or somebody who's popular among that key demographic, you may get more people to watch. So as much as I don't think you need a host, I don't think it's the worst decision I've heard.
I disagree. No. They've tried. I think the problem is that the Oscars are just people are stopped caring. I think we're in an age now where people just don't really give a shit about what the Oscars have to say, because they've tried in the past. They've nominated Joker. They've nominated Black Panther. And then the viewership keeps going down and down and down, no matter how popular the movies were that they nominated and how much money they made and how much people really liked them. It did not help their ratings, and they continue to get lower and lower and lower and lower. I don't think it makes a difference anymore. I don't think Tom Holland hosting would actually impact it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think that this year specifically, we're going to see because even I feel like last year there was a little bit more attentiveness of how they're going to do a show in a pandemic. This year, it's just, I don't know. Because you're right. It's not going to help overall. I think the more the streaming happens, the more that these movies just continually to just not capture the public's attention. They're not, and honestly, that shouldn't be the focus of the Academy Awards. It's not. It should not be about getting 20 million viewers. I rather have 1 million viewers, and you actually put on a show that honors the films and does good work of raising awareness for film. Than let's give out pizza. It's like that. So I'm saying this as somebody who, like, if it keeps going down but the show gets better, sign off.
Yeah, I thought last year's show was really good. Like, I genuinely
until the end,
until the end.
Until the ending, yes. The ending was atrocious, but everything else I thought was really good.
Yeah, look, that part's on the Academy, but I thought Steven Soderbergh did it. They had some great ideas, and I hope they continue with them. I hope they don't take the backlashes and, we have to go back to the way it used to be. Please don't, because that's way worse.
They probably will. I don't think they liked how it was received last year. But I think their biggest issue here, no matter what they do to the ceremony to try and get viewers, is they need to get it off of cable. People are just done with cable. People are losing and getting off of cable like by hundreds each day. Put it on some sort of streaming service, rotate around the streaming services each year. Yeah. Do stuff like that. I mean, no one has cable anymore. So that's why they're going down.
The hardest thing about the Oscars, too, is that with the Grammys and the Tonys, you can do that art live. You can't, you can't make a movie on a telecast the same way that you can perform this nominated songs at the Grammys and perform the nominated shows at the Tonys. So I think that also hurts it, because there isn't this, like, the same rush for these other award shows. And that's why I do think, I don't know the numbers, but I imagine the Grammys maybe do a little bit better in the ratings than the Oscars, because you can just do that stuff live. That's why I think the songs are so popular for the Oscars.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
True. Yeah. They could make some. I think also it would be cool if they did more advertising for, like, movies for the following year, like trailers for popular movies. I think you could kind of like those Game Awards do, get more viewers that way too. But also in this news story, Spider-Man No Way Home being pushed for Best Picture. Lots of people on Twitter have been saying it could potentially, like, take a 10th spot, get nominated at the PGAs, end up at the Oscars. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I don't think it's taking that 10th spot. So first off, I think this whole, as much, as I think it's well within Sony's capability and they're allowed to push this campaign, I don't think that's possible. I honestly would think they should get behind Willem Dafoe for Best Supporting Actor. I think that's a much more likely, especially because that category is all over the place, and they've shown to only nominate Willem Dafoe for certain movies, like Florida Project and At Eternity's Gate. So I think you want to try and get an actual nomination. I think that's more likely than maybe picture. But this happens all the time, that we get so caught up. And this is why, personally, I wanted to talk about this, because I just feel like you were watching so many people get so annoyed and angered about this, as if the Academy Awards are the final arbiter of what is good film. Like, see Book, Green, and I think you can tell that it doesn't necessarily matter what gets nominated. I do think that what gets a higher platform, and then what people can go on and say, well, I was an Academy Award nominee or a winner, and therefore they can maybe get boosting for the next project. That's what's important about this Academy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what gets nominated wins. So I found it ridiculous that so many people were upset, as if it got nominated, it would mean that your opinion of the movie changes. Your opinion doesn't change. But the other thing too is, I feel like we need to start breaking down this idea of best and favorite. If you love a movie, there shouldn't be any qualifiers. If you love Spider-Man No Way Home, if you loved The Matrix Resurrections, which we're going to talk about, if you love this small little indie movie, it shouldn't matter what they are. You should be able to voice your opinion and nominate it for whatever you think. So if somebody genuinely thought the best picture of the year was Spider-Man No Way Home, they should be able to vote for that. And it should garner the same respect that any other movie has, because in the end, film is subjective. Award shows are meant to just honor the best in film. If you are a voter and you think that this is the best in film, have at it. Because I do agree with Tom Holland that he's saying that the people who come and make these movies are making have the same intent to challenge, inspire, entertain that any filmmaker has. And they're just in a heightened environment. So I have no problem with Spider-Man No Way Home being considered. I don't necessarily think it will get in. It could, but I don't think it's this big like crazy idea that Sony should be ashamed of for considering. The movie's obviously doing something right if it's getting this insane box office during the pandemic. So if people feel it's deserving, why not? I don't see the big kerfuffle that everybody on Twitter and people in the industry think this is.
Yeah. Agreed.
I would just say that with everything that you've said, like, my favorite film of 2017 was I, Tonya. Was not nominated for Best Picture. Favorite film of 2018, Annihilation. Didn't get any Oscar nominations. So if you love a film, it doesn't really matter if the Academy awards it or not. Sure, it'd be great if they did, but if they don't, it's no big deal. With Spider-Man No Way Home, I personally don't think it should be considered, but at the same time, it's I'm not a voter. It doesn't really matter. Like, if Sony thinks that they can get it, they have every single right to push it. Like, if Amazon thinks Cinderella can get a nomination, then they can push it. Like, it's up to them. Like, it's not, if you think a film is terrible, which, look, I don't think No Way Home is terrible. I don't necessarily think it's good either, though. Like, that, it doesn't really matter because film is subjective. People do love it. So if people think it should be nominated within the Academy, then 100%, if they have the numbers to nominate it, you go ahead and you nominate it. Like, it's this thing with Wonder Woman a few years ago, also campaigned for Best Picture, and a lot of people were like, yeah, but this film is terrible. The best comic book film of the year is Logan. And yes, it definitely was the best comic book movie of the year, but it was still within Warner Brothers. Like, they still had a reason to push it because there was a campaign for it. There was a message for it. So if there's a message for No Way Home, go ahead, Sony, you do it. And look, if you get it, you get it. That's a great thing to pull off, to have a film like that. Like, we've had comic book movies in the past be nominated, but to have just a pure popcorn blockbuster movie, like, that would be something completely different, which truly hasn't happened before. Like, all of the films have been intellectual, like Joker, Inception, Black Panther to a degree. So this would be the first, like, true popcorn movie nominated, which would be interesting.
Like, we even go back, like, I feel like if No Way Home is nominated, it would occupy the same place as Raiders of the Lost Ark being nominated for Best Picture. Like, Raiders of the Lost Ark is like this deeply important film. It's a fun, really well executed movie that audiences went crazy for in 1981. And because of that, or like E.T. These are not movies that are speaking about society's ills. They're really well-made movies that captured the emotional hearts of many people. I don't think that necessarily means they're, just because it's not as substantive as a Joker or a Black Panther or other Oscar contenders, it shouldn't be nominated. I just feel like there's this idea that, like, there's bad blockbusters, great blockbusters, and then there's bad indies and good indies. And, like, that's the scale. And I don't think that's true. I think, as somebody who found Belfast mixed, I don't think Belfast is more worthy of a Best Picture nomination just because the budget is under $100 million. Too. I think any movie is worthy of Best Picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Belfast, God, yeah, that movie. I like Spider-Man more than that movie. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Okay, and now we are heading into the review section, where we've got a lot to review today. Got to start off with Encanto. Just hit Disney Plus, so I have watched it. I thought it was really, really cute. Very heartwarming movie. I liked how it explored the different how older generations have to go through a lot more pain and hurtful stuff and a difficult life, so the younger generation can have better lives than them. The music was really good too. I'd say it's the best music they've had since Moana, which was also Lin-Manuel Miranda. So he's doing the best of the Disney musical musics. I'd say the best were Under the Surface, and we don't talk about Bruno, especially Under the Surface from the character Louisa, who was probably my favorite in the whole movie. That was a really, really good song. I've been listening to it multiple times since I've seen the movie. Some cool characters. Louisa was my favorite. I also like the Dolores character. Animation. I mean, this is like that comes with every Disney movie now. The animation is like really, really good. I think it's a little predictable, in a lot of ways for a kid's movie, but still, it's very heartwarming and sweet overall. And it was a fun watch, very entertaining. So I really liked it. What do you think, Anthony?
I really liked it a lot. I thought it was refreshing in that I never knew where the movie was going. I thought that the narrative was really unpredictable. And I thought some of the thematic choices made, though a little bit, par for Disney, I did still feel that there was a lot of substance in those explorations in terms of the differing generational perspectives on family, on community, on culture. I really thought that Stephanie Beatriz's voice work as Mirabelle was particularly noteworthy. I think it's one of the better performances from Disney animation and Pixar in the last couple of years. I really found the songs to be unique and catchy. We don't talk about Bruno, definitely the highlight for me. Yeah, animation was lovely. I like that the movie kind of takes place in one location, which I thought was cool. I just feel like this movie was like back to basics for Disney. And as much as I've enjoyed a lot of their more recent films, like the Frozen films and Big Hero 6 and Zootopia and Moana, I think this film was the most like some of the classic Disney, but with a renewed authenticity in its representation and perspective that you see in modern films, and I really appreciated that. So yeah, despite that, I think it touches on a little similar ground for Disney. I thought this was a really striking animated feature, and one that I would put on par with Luca as my favorite of the year, which means that I would totally be fine if this won Best Animated Feature. I think it's a very deserving winner.
Yeah, I used to think Luca was going to win Best Animated Picture. I do think it'll be Encanto now.
Yeah.
It should be Mitchell's, though. That's easily the best animated movie of the year.
I still have to catch up on that one.
The Golden Globes didn't even nominate it, and I'm still mad. If it doesn't get at the Oscars, we're just going to have to riot or something. Yeah. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Pretty good movie.
I give it an 8.2 out of 10, which means our
like did a little you like to point two more. Yeah. Overall ranking is 8.1. 81%. B minus. Okay, so the next movie we're going to talk about now, The Matrix Resurrections. This is a very interesting movie to talk about in a lot of ways. The internet discussion regarding this is very Last Jedi-esque, I think, in a lot of ways. There's people who wanted it to be like a fan servicey movie. People who didn't. I think Lana, she had a lot to say with this movie, which is what I appreciated. I don't know how well done it is, but I would say this is the blockbuster of this year that has the most to say about the current state of the industry than any other big movie, which is nice. She clearly has a lot to say in regards to Hollywood and the way studios are just recycling a ton of franchises over and over. The lack of artistic vision that is now being suppressed now in these modern blockbusters, and just the fan service, all of that. I've seen some people go as far to say, because this in the movie is very obvious that she didn't want to really make the movie. There's even a line our company in the movie, our parent company, Warner Brothers, wants us to make a Matrix 4. But if you don't want to do it anyways, they'll just do it without you. So it's like, oh, okay, you're being very blatant here. So I don't think she wanted to make it, but I think she didn't want to hand it off to someone else. So I've seen some people go as far to say that she personally didn't make this movie as good as a form of sabotage to Warner Brothers, which I think is getting very galaxy brain there. That's a big theory. People have said,
these conspiracies, the same people who thought Rian Johnson tricked Disney, you cannot trick these corporations and companies. It's not how it works. I love that people think that that's a theory, rationalizing why this movie is the way it is. It's not. Believe me, she did not purposely make a bad movie to sabotage Warner Brothers.
No. I've seen people say maybe she just made the action bad as a way to dissatisfy fans, but I don't think that's it either. I would say the action here is noticeably not good, especially the way it's shot and covered. It's close up, it's quick cut editing, which is a real disappointment when the and Neo doesn't even do anything besides
the entire thing. Keanu Reeves does this for a half an hour.
He does, yeah. He just pushes everything. It's magical. So the action wasn't that good, which sucks because that's a staple of this franchise. But I still think I would still put it above a lot of blockbusters this year just because it has something to say. Unlike say Godzilla versus Kong, that's just a big monster fight movie. So I think it has some merit. I think the performances for the most part are good. I'd say Jessica Henwick is the standout amongst the new cast. I would say bringing back Morpheus was definitely unnecessary, and I didn't really. It's not Yaya's fault. It's more the way the character was written that I didn't enjoy. I would say the best part of this entire movie, all the scenes involving Neo and Trinity, are easily the highlights of the movie, which is why the second act, is just like if you completely fix the second act and just have it focused on other stuff, I would say this is a much better movie. They like go into a bunch of world building. You meet Jada Pinkett Smith in that section. Not my favorite part. So that part really dragged the movie. But yeah, what do you think, Anthony?
So last Wednesday when it came out, I marathoned all 4 Matrix movies. The first one I had seen before, the sequels I had not, and the 4th one I went to see it in IMAX. So I don't know, I had a full day of Matrix.
Yeah.
And for me, I found the Matrix sequels to be a definite, like the 2 and 3 to be such a lower quality and from the first one, and I found the 4th one to be such a lower quality of the sequels. I really just did not care for this film. I thought that it was diluting what was at first in 1999 such a breathtakingly brilliant idea for not only a sci-fi film, but just film in general. This way it was questioning reality and doing it in such a dynamic way. You cared about Keanu Reeves' character and Morpheus, and the performances are all strong, but it also had these innovative action sequences. And just there's such apathy on display for this movie. It looked like nobody cared about this movie. And I know that's not true. No movie is made in an apathetic lens. You can't spend the amount of time it takes to make a film and not care. But Lana Wachowski certainly tried her best to try and prove me wrong with that, because again, I don't know if she wanted to sabotage Warner Brothers. I think that theory is a little too
a little far, but I do think she's kind of pushing on him a little bit with this movie.
I don't think her heart was in it. I think this is very personal material for her. I don't think she wants to she doesn't want to hand it off. And I think we see this, all over the place. We see this with George Lucas. We see this with Steven Spielberg. We see this with a lot of people when they have to pass off their things. Honestly, this movie, The Matrix Resurrections, felt to me what it would have felt like if George Lucas did the sequel trilogy, which I thought was interesting because people have always wondered like what his 7, 8, and 9 would have been. I think this is what it would have felt like. As far as having something to say, Jack, you said that was one of your positives. I think it has certain ideas, but I don't think they actually explore it. And if they explore it, I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, because the movie is trying to be this meta commentary on sequels and franchises. But there are literal scenes in this movie where the original Matrix is playing in the background, like the full movie. You watch scenes of the Matrix in this movie. So, and I don't like, as far as the movies that this is maybe like critiquing, like you don't see that type of thing. Like the current Batman movies and Star Wars and Spider-Man, like they don't play the movies of the past in those clips. So I found this movie to be so indulgent of the Matrix past to the point that it was diluting what it was trying to say, because I found this movie so much more attached to the Matrix than any of the current movies that it's critiquing are attached to their own predecessors. And yeah, I found the action to be very bland. It didn't feel like they had any innovation in crafting these sequences. I thought the performances, Carrie-Anne Moss, I thought was the best part of the movie. She has a nice monologue in a coffee shop that I thought...
She's not in it enough.
She's not in it enough, and she's the focus of the movie, apparently. And I'm like, well, then why isn't she in the movie more? For me, I think this movie kind of has the flaws of Reloaded and Revolutions just put to extremes. It has the mindless action that is not character-driven of Revolutions, and it has all the heady world building of Reloaded that doesn't make sense. There's so much talking. Like this movie, it's show don't tell in movies, and this is so clearly tell don't show. And nothing was, I didn't leave the movie intrigued. I didn't leave the movie interested. I honestly could not tell you the plot of this movie. It was so all over the place. So yeah, despite I think Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves and Jessica Henwick's good work, nothing about this movie stuck. And I do think I get a little bit more upset with this movie because if you're just a bad movie, you're a bad movie. But if you're a bad movie parading itself as if you have a better understanding of something, and yet you're not only an understanding of what you're critiquing, but you're a worse version of that, then I take like, all right, movie, you can't like know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my issue with the Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, I do think I agree with you. It wants to explore those things, but then like it completely moves on to a different thing. Like this movie's all over the place in terms of what it wants to talk about and cover. Like the first, I'd say third is very focused on like that meta commentary. And the second third, you like go into world building outside of like the Matrix, which was completely useless in my opinion. And the third act is pretty much just a bunch of action.
Yeah, Free Guy is the better version of this movie that was released this year. Personally,
no, I would
don't
disagree.
Say that, yeah. He doesn't like Free Guy.
I don't like that
I'll
movie.
say with everything Anthony just said, that's exactly how I felt leaving The King's Man last night. Pure horseshit. Nobody should see it. But I will say this. In 2021, when a lot of people like a running joke for the past like 2 years is like, oh my god, I feel like we're in the Matrix. Like this is shit, such a simulation. Like attached to like headlines and all that type of stuff. I think gives such an opportunity to explore and expand on that, like how society has become like a mockery of itself. I think it's something Don't Look Up touches on, with just how ridiculous we can be sometimes. And I think you have such an opportunity to do something like that with The Matrix. It's exactly what the franchise, I think, or the first film, because I haven't seen any of the other ones, and I probably won't. Even though I rewatched The Matrix with the intention of seeing this new one, like just the way it just sounds so frustrating because you could do so much with this franchise, the way that society has evolved in the past 20 years, and they're not. So that's just all I have to say. I haven't seen the movie. I probably won't. But I love Carrie-Anne Moss. I'm rewatching Jessica Jones at the minute. She's amazing.
Yeah. Memento too. She's great in that.
I should mention I also haven't seen Matrix 2 and 3, so I was a little lost at some points.
So yeah, maybe I was just burnt out. But given that I feel like a lot of people also have my opinion of this film, and I'm assuming that they all didn't also watch all four in one day, but I think it does speak to the critique. It's also 2.5 hours. So many movies this year are so
people need to learn how to cut their movies. Every movie pretty much I've seen is too long.
Yeah, I follow Jeff Snyder, who used to be on Collider FYC, and he said that I think every movie this year needs to cut 20 minutes, and I wholeheartedly agree. Spider-Man No Way Home is the only movie where I don't feel the runtime, but like Eternals and Kingsman never ended. Jesus.
Oh my God, literally fucking hell. Yeah. Oh, it was infuriating.
That's another movie. We're not doing a full review, but that's another movie where I feel like
you guys can talk about it
and eat it too, because it's a movie that preaches anti-war and anti-violence, but then the whole last third of the movie is this violent cavalcade. It's like you can't have a theme and then by the end of the movie negate the theme and still have the theme at the end of the film. It's just, oh my God.
I also thought it was ridiculous setting it in World War One and like the way that the Kingsman is brought about, and it's like, so you failed for every major conflict after that when you're supposed to be so efficient. I thought the film, I think it was interesting the way they marketed it. I never thought the movie looked good. I always thought it looked terrible. It looked like 1917 and Wonder Woman. Like that's what they were trying to do, an amalgamation of those films, but it was just infinitely worse than both, which frustrated me because I think that's a great idea for a movie, 1917 meets Wonder Woman, but alas. But the way that the trailers go, you think it's one thing, like they don't show you a lot, but that's a good thing. But if you're a film and you're not showing a lot in your trailer, then I would advise you have some good surprises, not even surprises, but a good film for us to be surprised that we're happy we didn't see. Because as much as I disliked the trailers of The Kingsman, I thought all of them looked horrible. I never thought this looked like a good movie. I thought maybe I'd be surprised, but I wasn't. I was surprised that what I thought was going to be the movie was only the movie for the first act. And then the other two acts were just like, I honestly can't even tell you what they were. I genuinely forget. It's been hasn't even been 24 hours, and it's like that movie has completely left my mind. It's such a shame. Like, and some parts were just ridiculous. Like, you don't need to see someone licking Ray Fiennes' leg for like a solid 30 seconds. You really don't need to see that. And it was just irritating. The action was, the VFX were like, it's not as if they didn't have time to fix the visual effects. This was supposed to come out when Birds of Prey was supposed to come out. Like they had it was
supposed to come out before Frozen 2. That's how long this movie's been in the can.
It's, oh my God. They really had the time to fix it. They really had just the green screen. Like, guys, practicality, practical sets. That's the way to go nowadays. That's the way to differentiate yourself from the pack. And while the hand-to-hand action was really good, as it always is, it didn't feel like Matthew Vaughn had his heart and soul in this movie, as he did with the first one, I think. It just felt like a waste of time. And they have the audacity to set up a sequel. Like, guys, we're interested in Eggsy, not Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
As much as I love it.
And I just want to say last thing on The Matrix is that, the movie's critiquing that, people don't have their heart and soul in these movies. And that's why they're so, cold and calculating. But, you could not find somebody who loves Marvel more than Kevin Feige. You can't find people who love Batman more than Matt Reeves. J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson with Star Wars. So I feel like this idea that the people making these movies don't care about these stories and they're just minions for the studios and puppets, I don't believe that's not true. And so the movie telling me it is not only false, but it's worse because I don't think Lana Wachowski actually is motivated to tell this story, even though she's critiquing the works of these other people as if they're not passionate about their works. I
would say, I think one the main things she's critiquing is the suppression of the directors within these movies, which I would say in Marvel is a thing. You don't see direction in most of these films; they're all directed by a committee, and I think that's kind of.
I think you look at Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, and The Winter Soldier. They all are very differently directed movies, and they're all directed by
in ways
indie filmmakers. Like Ryan Coogler. It was his third movie. Taika Waititi was doing Hunt for the Wilder People, and he gets to make a Marvel movie. And it's Rian Johnson was making small sci-fi movies like Looper. These are not, again, this is why I feel like people like to be critical of blockbusters because those are the movies they see. There would be a lot more talk about these smaller movies if people saw that.
I would say with those movies you mentioned, not including Last Jedi, because I think Rian Johnson got to do everything he wanted. And that went however it went. But with the Marvel movies, I think if you look at the movies they make outside of the Marvel movies, that's where you see their vision. I think you see parts of their vision in their movies, but I think you see a very suppressed version of it, even with Taika Waititi and Ryan Coogler. Looking at their other movies, I feel like you see much more of their directorial.
Ryan Coogler did not direct the third act of Black Panther.
He did not. That was all visual effects. That was rhinos.
Yeah. Jesus, those rhinos.
Yeah. Well, just the point being is, though, I just feel like the idea that the studios are the ones making the movies and the filmmakers have no passion for these stories now, I find ridiculous. Because these filmmakers are proud of the movies they make. They don't hide from talking about these movies. They're proud of them, and they'll go around talking about the Taika Waititi's doing The Mandalorian. He's going off to do Star Wars. He obviously feels motivated as a filmmaker in this arena. So this idea that filmmakers are not as presented through The Matrix is just, again, it just also the fact that The Matrix, I felt like they didn't explore The Matrix as much, this version of The Matrix. So it's it just didn't work.
I think it's more of a capitalist critique. I don't think they're not. I don't think personally she's critiquing the artist. I think she's critiquing the studios here, in my opinion. But
to summarize, Ms. Wachowski, South Park did this first with Member Berries. You tried to make a movie about Member Berries, didn't work. Yeah. Fair enough.
You had some ideas, but I would agree her passion wasn't there. And I do like how she focused more on Neo and Trinity here. I do think that's easily the best part of the franchise. So,
yeah.
So what are your scores? How low do you go?
I go 6.2 out of 10 is what I'd give it.
I go 2.4, which means we have an average rating of 4.3.
Out of 10, wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yikes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Now on to Being the Ricardos. We all know what this is about. The Ricardos. Lucille Ball, Javier Bardem. Interesting casting choices. as has been covered to the lead-up of this movie, but we don't need to talk about that now. I really didn't enjoy this movie. I felt like Aaron Sorkin here was trying to stuff like way too much stuff into this movie. Like he's trying to cover like her whole life and career while also having it take place over just 1 week, which I think is like trying to have his cake and eat it too in terms of the different approaches to biopics. He tries to cover way too much, and a lot of it felt out of place and useless. Like we mentioned earlier, it slowly trudges along like most movies this year. And it has a very unfocused path, in my opinion. I'm not sure what its goal is or what it's trying to say. I would say this is Sorkin's worst directorial effort yet. I would say he's going down with each movie so far, which is not a good trajectory. I'd also say it has a shockingly clunky and messy script for him, which is, he's always known for his good scripts, but I don't think this is a good script. Some of the dialogue is good, but the overall structure, which I would say is probably even more important, is very, very bad. Scattered, aimless. I'd say Kidman, Bardem, and Nina, I think Arianda is her name. Those were the standouts in performance-wise. I don't understand the J.K. Simmons hype for a supporting actor. I didn't see anything special there. Yeah. But also with those performances, I don't think any of them are nomination worthy, in my opinion. At least in my opinion. The title is kind of misleading because it's not really about the Ricardos at all. It's mostly about behind the scenes stuff. Technically, as with all of his films so far, it's technically very bland and uninspired, which is kind of a bummer, especially with this one, because there's so much potential with what you could do style-wise with the show and the past and all the cool technical stuff, but he doesn't do any of that. It's very poorly edited, also. Hard to tell, like, at specific times. Like, he covers multiple different time periods with flashbacks and stuff, and it's hard to tell sometimes what time period you're in, because Nicole Kidman looks the same age throughout all of these periods, in my opinion, at least. I was like, how young is she here? How old is she? And also, very odd framing device here. I don't understand it at all. The documentary, he's taking interviews from like people who are involved in the show and having it as the framing device throughout the whole movie. It's very off-putting and just odd and a bad choice, in my opinion. So I'd say overall,
do that in I, Tonya?
They did, but they did it much better in I, Tonya.
The thing with I, Tonya is it's pointedly used, and I think Stephen Rogers and Craig Gillespie talked about this, that it's because they interviewed both of them in real life and they had such differing opinions on the truth that was then their way in for the movie. But here, it's like, it doesn't work.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It's confusing because you're like, wait, are these the real people?
Or, I was confused too.
Yeah, it was when Linda Lavin came in as playing the Aaliyah Shawkat character that I was like, wait a second, you're Linda Lavin, which means are the other two people actors? It just totally didn't work and so unnecessary for a movie that was talking about the internal life of these people. Like, the writers don't know the internal struggles of their marriage. Only Lucille and Desi would know that.
Yeah, it was a really odd choice. And they also had them like, they didn't have differing opinions. They like had them saying the same sentence over and over. And it's like, okay, I get it. So yeah, I would say overall, it's not a bad movie. It's just extremely mediocre, which is disappointing given all the potential it had with all the people involved. So yeah, what do you think, Anthony?
This movie needed to be ripped from Aaron Sorkin's directorial hands because I think the script is a little bit miscalculated in terms of everything that it wants to accomplish. Partly, I think that is from him trying to stuff in all this stuff in 1 week, which, you look at something like Spencer, that's able to do that very well. This is an example of that not being done so well because it just, it feels too sensationalized. It feels too much like this. You didn't really feel like you were living with the characters. It just felt like you were like reading their Wikipedia page. I thought the performances were pretty good. I think they did a nice job. I think that Nicole Kidman grew on me as the film went along. I thought Javier Bardem did some very nice work as Desi Arnaz. Simmons I thought was good. Arianda I thought that was good. I thought the writers were, Tony Hale gets a couple nice moments, but the Aaliyah Shawkat and Jake Lacy, like, I said it first, but I'm a woman and I'm a man. It's like, I was so tired of them the whole movie. One thing, when there's a shot that Desi goes to see Lucille at sunset or at Sunrise.
Yeah.
It was at I believe it's the same location
La La
that they
Land.
got the La La Land thing. And I'm like, I think the same way that we like retire numbers in sports, I think we need to retire that location from movies.
That's their spot now.
Yeah, that's their spot. Speaking of that shot was the only interesting or visually appealing shot in the whole movie, save for the last pan up shot, zoom out shot, excuse me. It was so visually dull. And I think, you look at something, Ben and I have had a very long history a year ago talking about WandaVision. But I feel like you look at something like that that's trying to capture the energy and the vibrancy of a similar era. You needed somebody who had that vision. Like I could have seen like a Greta Gerwig doing something interesting directorially.
Olivia Wilde is going to be doing it this year.
Yeah, Olivia Wilde. Mm-hmm. So like it was just so flat visually, and I felt that Sorkin's approach to the material was so disinteresting. I thought the ending was the best part, though, I will say. I think there's a thing they do with the Lucy, I'm home line that really hit home, and I thought Kidman's acting there in that moment was really well done. So it definitely has its moments, but I don't think it coalesces together in any meaningful fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. The ending, like the last 10 minutes were the most interesting part, which is not always the best thing about a movie.
Which, one last thing, it's like that's what the movie should have been about. The fact that the most famous marriage was not only you were lying to the audience, but they were lying to themselves. Mm-hmm. That should have been the movie.
It should have been.
Yeah, but we're so focused on like, this joke isn't working, and like I said it first, and the whole communist thing, and it's like, again, it was just like, Sorkin, pick one lane and do that very well, because and maybe this was his history with being on the West Wing and writing for television. Like this could have maybe done better with like 6 hours, but in a 2-hour runtime, it just didn't. All the things that he wanted to do just didn't work together. He needed to pick one route and do that well. So
definitely, I would agree. So rating wise, I'll give it a 5.5, I guess, out of 10.
I give it a 6.4, which gives our ranking a 5.95 or 6. So right on the line.
Let's not round up. It deserves that 5.9.
Okay. I definitely, I could be swayed more. So 5.9.
Yeah. We'll have to see how it does at the Oscars. I think Kidman will probably get in, but I don't think she should take one of those spots. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I would much rather see Alana Haim get in than Kidman or Gaga or Chastain or a lot of the other people.
Yeah. That's a tight race there. And now to the main event review of the episode, the movie we have all seen. It is Adam McKay's latest film, Don't Look Up. It covers two astronomers, Jennifer Lawrence and Leo. They discover a comet. It's going to hit Earth within 6 months, and they go on this crazy campaign, tour, all that stuff to try and save the world. But the world's a complicated place, as we know in real life and in this movie. I am mixed positive on this movie, so I'm going to let the more extreme sides go first, and then I will jump in with my middle of the road opinion. So who would Ben, how about you go first? What are your thoughts on this?
You want me to start? I'll happily start. Adam McKay, you beautiful bastard. I love you so much. This movie was everything I wanted it to be. I was so excited, as everyone knows. I've been so excited for this film for a very long time. It has a great cast. I love Adam McKay's work. I think he's done some great stuff over the past few years. I loved Vikes. I know I'm probably in the minority here. I'm not sure if you liked it, Anthony, but I know Jack hated it. I just loved it. And I loved all of his movies. I think I haven't disliked one of his films. So this movie, what I really, really wanted it to be was, I didn't want it to be hyper partisan, as in these are the bad guys and we all have to hate these people because they're the ones stopping progress. What I loved about it was that it pointed fingers at everyone and society and saying, kind of all responsible for this. You know, if one group of people are saying these people are responsible, but it's also these people as well. You know, we can't communicate in a way that is, that is supportive for all of us, that benefits everyone. We can't communicate in a way. We hate each other so much that we just don't want to listen to what the other person's saying, even if what the other person's saying could save our lives. So the plot, like, getting into the performances, Jennifer Lawrence stole the show for me. Like, what did you all think about her? Like, Anthony, you take her. Like, I think if anyone's getting a nomination, it should be her.
She was not my favorite of the movie. I thought she was good. I'm glad to see her again because it's been a while, but there were some moments that felt a little off because I feel like her character does not change the entire movie. She doesn't have an arc unlike other characters, so I didn't think that worked in her favor. I would say Leo was my favorite of them all, but she's probably a close second.
Let it be put for the record, this is the only time Ben and I are going to agree on this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Lawrence was the best part of Don't Look Up. I'm forever a Jennifer Lawrence fan. I was 10 years old when I saw The Hunger Games. Whether that was an appropriate decision on my parents' behalf, judge all you may, but I've loved her since then. And she was the only thing that kept me from walking out of this theater. I'll let Ben continue his thoughts before I lay it out.
Just one thing I'll say, and I'm not going to go for too long, but I will say my absolute favorite thing about this film was the theme of that. There's a lot of really good themes about how we all need to kind of shut up and get along if it's for the better of everyone. That one I really liked, but my favorite has to be how corporate greed will be the death of us all, and particularly when it comes to climate change, the more and more that we let these corporations drill our planet, take our resources. Like in Ireland right now, there's this rat company that's trying to repeal the ban on fracking in the north, but if it's repealed in the north, it's the same island, it will bleed into our country as well, all for profit. And it's pretty disgusting, it's despicable, but some people are just for the jobs it's going to create. Loved it. Yep. Thank you so much to David Sirota, who I've always admired, but also to Adam McKay, who just two really great guys with a great idea. And kudos to everyone who signed on to this movie. I have a lot of respect for all of you.
So on the other side.
Yes. All right. So listen, I really liked The Big Short and I liked Vice. So as far as Adam McKay post-career revitalization, I'm a fan of his films. I'm not opposed to his style. This movie currently is my runner-up for my worst movie of the year. It's my least favorite movie, second to Dear Evan Hansen. I could not stand this movie. If I did not have a West Side Story screening after it, I probably would have walked out. I could not stand this movie, and I want to be clear, it is not because of the messages of the movie. I am totally for a lot of the themes that Ben says the movie explores. I just don't think they explore them well. First off, I found the movie to be so offensively not funny. There's one running thing with like the snacks that I thought was the closest thing it got to eliciting a laugh, and then one cameo that I thought was pretty well done. I won't spoil it because I think the surprise of seeing this actor is part of the thrill of that moment.
Sadly, he was already revealed to be in the cast, but...
Well, then there you go. It's another thing the movie ruins. But yeah, I could not stand this movie for a multitude of reasons. I didn't find it funny at all. And I think, especially post the last 5 years, satire is very hard to do because how do you top what we just went through, what we just experienced? But I found the film so not only detached from reality in terms of any resonance to the things it's trying to satirize, but I felt that the world of the movie itself, I just didn't buy into. I didn't buy that these were logical things that could happen within the context of the story that they were setting up. Like, one of the things I think Adam McKay is definitely trying to discuss the Trump era that we're still kind of in. We're in the aftermath of it through the Meryl Streep character and Jonah Hill, her son, who's the chief of staff for her, in a Jared Kushner type place. And one of the most horrifying things about what happened and how, what led to the insurrection on January 6th of the US Capitol and all these things is that Trump and his team knew what they were doing. They were tapping into this white male zeitgeist that had, and it gave them a spotlight that we had never seen before and we probably will never see again. But Meryl Streep was such a buffoon the entire movie. And I feel like you have one of the greatest living actors. Give her some substance to her character, but none of these characters I felt had substance. None of them felt like they had any character development or characterizations. They felt like ideas for characters or caricatures rather than like fully formed narrative forces. I thought that Jennifer Lawrence was good, but they kind of disregard her character halfway through. And I feel like if the movie's saying how like women, a lot of times, it's the whole thing that Elizabeth Warren talked about when she got out of the race for presidency in 2020, that a woman is either too soft and weak if she doesn't, press her ideas, or if she does do that and she's a little bit more aggressive, then she's a bitch. And the movie kind of talks about that, but then the fact that they kind of ignore Jennifer Lawrence and the movie kind of stays with Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm like, you're being hypocritical. I found the whole movie to be hypocritical. And one of the biggest areas, and then I'll pass it back along, is that the movie makes this point that we shouldn't make light of a lot of the horrors of today. Specifically with two outbursts from Leo and Jennifer Lawrence against Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett's characters. One, I feel that I personally don't agree with that. And I think you look at people like Stephen Colbert, like John Oliver, like Trevor Noah, and a lot of these people who
aren't funny,
the news, your opinion, but they obviously get a lot of people involved in American politics. I don't know about worldwide. Ben has a different opinion, but I'm sure there are probably late night or comedians from all around the world who allow people to look at what's happening in their world, digest it, and get involved in ways that the news sometimes can't, because they're so, they're so dreary and they're so depressing. And I get it. It's the stuff they're talking about is dreary and depressing. But this idea that making light of these things is like wrong from the outset, like trying to make light of these things is just so wrong. I found not only not true, but the movie itself is a satire trying to make light of a lot of these things. So again, I found the movie hypocritical because it's trying to critique, it's trying to act like it's Leo, but the movie is so clearly Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry. It's laughing at COVID denialism, at climate change denialism. And so it didn't work for me. And so I didn't enjoy any part of this movie. I thought it dragged. It was so dull. Nothing really captured me, or it was shot well. And for me, it echoes a lot of my complaints with The Matrix. You're not only, what I feel that you're critiquing is not only wrong in a lot of ways, you're a part of the wrongness. And this movie isn't going to change the minds of the people that it's affecting. Like the people who would not look up, they're not going to see this movie. So what's the point? I also think the issue is that the movie is kind of like a middle finger, like especially by the end of the movie feels like a middle finger. And I just hate that thing of like, it presents this scenario and we're just going to say, all right, let's let everything be destroyed. And, this is your fault, America. It's like, I personally didn't appreciate Adam McKay's intent by the end of the movie to just basically let the world explode and say, it's on you, when you have the position and you have the power to try and inspire people and try and change that. Movies are a great tool of expression and getting people to care about so many causes and so many stories. And the fact that you're going to use this opportunity and this cast to try and say, we're doomed and there's no getting around it, I just found it to be very callous. And I personally didn't think that its lofty ambitions were realized and executed in any meaningful fashion.
Okay.
I just want to pick up on something really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
To Jack. With what you said about, say, like the people who aren't going to look up. The way I saw it in the movie, now it might be different, but like the way that like the Trump Sarah Palin type president that Meryl Streep is playing, the way that she sort of looks into this don't look up position. The same way that a lot of presidents, particularly Trump, when he would talk about ridiculous stuff, he sort of looked into being on this and would play to his audience in a way that I think she was doing as well. But the key part of that was that the audience, the demographic, the people who would vote for her believed her and what she was saying. But I thought you saw in a really pivotal part of the movie where you start seeing the meteor in the sky, and then the people outside the White House are saying, she lied to us. They lied to us. And then obviously like there's more social media clips of like just don't look like whatevs. But I thought that was a really important point when it says that these people aren't completely unreachable. Yes, there's an extreme to certain types of voters that you're probably never going to reach, but a solid majority of them have been persuaded by someone who has their own self-interest at heart. I see it a lot in my own country. Obviously, I don't live in America, but I have Twitter, which is unfortunate for myself to have that. It's not a great tool sometimes, but I didn't think it was completely I didn't think it was a pretentious movie. Like looking down on these people who wouldn't look up. I thought it was almost like begging them to look up, begging them to sort of look around and see what kind of that's just what I thought. And again, it kind of helped that I thought the film was enjoyable. I thought it was well acted, well written, well directed. I thought it was shot very well. I thought the VFX were great. I thought it was funny. And if you didn't get, I suppose if you're not along for the ride, then, and your perspective as well, there's been a lot of films that have tried to have like a social justice message where I have felt the way you have felt. And I felt that they've been very pretentious, not helpful, and it's exactly what's wrong with these types of movies. I didn't think that was the case with Don't Look Up, but maybe it's just because it's my perspective. I think your perspective is completely valid, and if I felt that way, I would hate this movie too. I just don't, because I was along for the ride, and I suppose I interpret them differently than you. And you look, that's the beauty of movies. That's it, guys. We don't have to tear each other apart like the people in this movie do. But
yeah, and I want to. I just want to fend off in case anybody has this opinion. I don't think the reason why you liked it and I didn't is because I'm American and you're not, and therefore this is like more personal for me. I don't think that's the case. Anybody can watch a story, and because this is also it turns into a global story. Yeah. So I want to just, as much as this movie is a kind of debunking the Trump era, I don't think you need to be this hits differently for Americans than it will abroad, too. So yeah,
there's a lot of Trump figures overseas, unfortunately.
Yes, there are. Yeah. Okay. So the middle ground over here. A little past experience with Adam McKay. I saw Big Short like when it first came out, and I don't remember enjoying it that much, but I think it deserves a rewatch before I straight up say I didn't like it. Vice I saw last year during the pandemic, and I didn't like it at all, but we don't need to get into that. This is the first Adam McKay movie I think I've truly enjoyed, which is nice. I think part of it may be because it's just a very entertaining movie. I mean, it has a ton of flaws, tonal issues and all that, but I never felt it dragging. I thought the editing was really good. I was entertained throughout, also because the cast is star-studded, and that also helps. And I think it also helps because pretty much every other movie I've seen this week before this, I was like, oh my God, this is dragging. This is taking forever. This is the first one in a while that I'm like, I didn't feel it at all. It felt like it like zoomed by. Yeah, I think the main reason I like it is because it's entertaining. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to unpack there. There's a lot of tonal issues, and there were moments like I find within some of the Marvel movies, moments where it's like that's supposed to have more dramatic impact, but then it's undercut by comedy. I wasn't as bad in this movie as it was in some of the Marvel movies, but there were still some moments like that.
I'll give you an example, like something like C-3PO losing his mind in Rise of Skywalker. It's like like the trailer had that beat better than the movie does, and I feel like that also was the case. Like the trailer had a better understanding of the movie. And maybe it's because it just felt so strained and repetitive and pulled apart. Like, I get it, Adam McKay. It's like he just kept hitting me with a shovel. Like, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. I feel like he was exploring different parts throughout, though. Like, I wasn't like he was just exploring the presidency throughout. He was also exploring news, social media, all that, climate change. I do think this is mostly a commentary on climate change. I see people commenting how it's like a metaphor for COVID. I believe it was written before COVID, so I'm not sure about that. I think he probably
like I think
implemented parts of it.
Both of them are kind of the same in how there's like a lot of denialism, a lot of lies, but I think it just sort of, they kind of looked into it and they could have maybe done some reshoots. I know they were shooting like in 2020, so they could have added some stuff in there.
Yeah, I think his general
really well.
His general idea was probably around the same, I would say. I do like, especially in the climate change topic, how he intersperses throughout these just different shots, like really quickly, of like throughout the entire world, of like nature, just people. Gives you a good idea, because this movie isn't like covering the entire world. It's covering like mostly two specific people in their journey. So it just gives you an idea throughout all of the different people in life and all of that that's just going to be impacted by it. So I thought that was a good editing decision.
If you couldn't tell,
I didn't.
I just, like, we get it, Adam McKay, the little bee buzzing and the flowers and the polar bear. It's like, we understand, buddy. You don't need, like, for me, that's just, it felt like he thought his audience was stupid. It's like, this is what's at stake. This is what's at stake. Here are these shots of nature. Like,
I just thought they were pretty. I just thought they looked nice.
It felt like Apple MacBook, like what you'll go into the Apple store and see on the MacBook on display. That's what they look like to me.
Yeah, I feel like it is a good reminder, especially with the tone of the movie, when you are like making light of some of these things throughout, like, this is what's really at stake here. So I thought it was important. I think maybe he did it one or too many times, but I do think it was a nice tool that he used within the movie. I overall do. I mean, I understand where you're coming at with like the hypocritical part of like making light of these things, like with the news people, and also his movie making light of it. I'm not sure. I think this movie is going to reach a very wide audience. I think it's going to reach that audience because of its tone. And I think that's how you.
Netflix, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, but if it was a very like serious, like the meteor is going to hit Earth, like this is devastating kind of metaphor, I don't think you're going to get nearly as many people to watch it. I do think you will get a lot of probably right-wing people to watch it because of how comedic and funny it looks. I think it could appeal, at least the trailer, to them in many ways, and they probably won't like the movie because critiques them in a lot of ways. But I feel like that's how you get people to pay more attention with comedy. You're not going to get them to watch a dreary, sad movie. You're going to get them to watch this comedy. And even though it is, like I said, totally inconsistent in that way and hypocritical in some ways, I do think overall it is the best approach to take in terms of getting the most people to listen to this message.
Which I'm fine with that. That's why I found it so infuriating that the movie tries to seem as if it's better than that. Like, the movie tries to like say that making light is bad, but it's like, no, that's okay. We can make light. It's how people get up every morning. You know, this optimistic thing that today's going to be a good day, like despite the craziness. Like, that's completely fine. But don't act as if you're above that mentality by then having Leo in such an Oscar baity type scene yell at Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry. Also, this movie has 2 end credit scenes. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't care for the end credit scenes. I feel like that kind of didn't undercut the impact at the end.
I didn't know there was 2.
There were 2.
Jonah Hill. What was the other one? The Jonah Hill
Meryl
one.
Streep, the one where you got one of the best actors to go butt ass naked in the last scene.
Yeah.
Can I just say spoiler alert? Because that also really bothered me. Like, the movie has, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. Meryl Streep dies at the end of the mid-credit scene. And I was like, all right, movie, if you're trying to say how the rich get away with this, then she shouldn't die at the end of the movie. She should live. If that's the point you're trying to evoke, then you can't also kill her and like be like, yeah, but she's bad. It's like, she's either bad and she gets away with it and she's a Trump figure, or she's not. But you gotta pick one. And I felt like then killing her was another example, as we talked with Matrix, of having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, I would agree.
It bothered me.
The way I saw it was like, I thought it was like typical Adam McKay, like funny humor, while also touching on the fact that the rich will always have a spaceship they can get on to go to other places and be like not have to worry about what the rest of the poor have to deal with. But it was also like, in a way, it was nice like to see these people get their comeuppance. And I think it was Adam McKay's way of saying, hopefully, the people who are responsible for the current situation right now, I'm not necessarily saying the former president or whoever, I'm just saying like all of the corporations drilling our planet. Hopefully they get the regulations they need, that we get the policy we need. That's just how I saw it. I also thought it was funny, so that just sort of worked for me. But if it didn't work for people, I can see how it could be really irritating. I can.
Yeah.
Especially if you thought it was hypocritical.
I think that was probably some of the best commentary the movie had, because it does tackle a lot of things. I do think the way it handled like these billionaires and like these big corporations, and the way they can they have so much influence on the entire planet and what can happen to it, and how they really don't have the best interests of like human people in mind. They have money and themselves in mind. So I didn't like Mark Rylance's performance. I kind of getting tired of this shtick that he's doing. He kind of did the same thing in Ready Player One. But I do think overall his character and the themes and topics it brings about were good. His smile was very off-putting, or like his teeth.
I was trying to figure out how to do it. I think it's this.
Yeah, I think he probably had fake teeth.
Oh yeah.
The makeup on him was like he looked like he had Botox done, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, he almost looked like he had CGI on his face, which I don't think he did, but it was interesting.
It really was. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Also, I think we've alluded to this, so spoiler alert one last time. The fact that the planet gets destroyed at the end of the movie, I mean, I think some of the things that is, again, granted, climate change will inevitably lead to the destruction of this planet, but I think some of the true horrors about this is that we see it happen. And so the fact that the terrible thing that happens with this comet means that the people don't actually get to reflect on their journeys. Like when, again, they didn't know this when they were writing it, but when the insurrection happened on January 6th, every single person in America and around the world was able to look at that event and see how it grew, how it escalated, how it changed. You're not allowed to give the characters that opportunity, and so the narrative feels incomplete. All the people who were saying, don't look up, never know what their actions led to it. And maybe, granted, maybe that's a truth, that people don't get to the opportunity to see their effects. But if the movie is looking for closure in every other regard, with the dinner table scene with Leo and his family, with the Meryl Streep dying, that was the one area where I felt like you needed closure. If you're getting closure everywhere else, then you need closure here. And the fact that they don't have closure there, again, I felt was a little bit just unearned.
Yeah, I would say I feel like a lot of the stuff you're mentioning as like issues, which I would agree with, are the characterization. There's not like, these are like more like big characterizations rather than characters like representing ideas and stuff instead of actual like deep three-dimensional people. I do think that's probably intentional, besides Leo, and I think Jennifer Lawrence is pretty two-dimensional in this movie as well, because she doesn't change at all.
Does Leo change? Like, granted,
he has a little bit of an arc.
He has the big Oscar scene, but I feel like he's at the same place at the beginning that he is at the end, and he has just a little cul-de-sac in the movie.
Yeah,
not really arc.
No, it's not the best arc, but I think he has the most change out of all of them, I guess. I think he's using these characters mostly as tools to represent his ideas and to push the ideas he's putting out there, rather than actual people. Like, I don't think he cares that like the people who are part of the Just Look Up campaign, like that they don't get to reflect on their actions. I think he's kind of like, if you are these people and soon enough you're not going to have enough time to reflect on your actions, because this planet is dying, and because by the time it comes around, it will be too late. Like we see with these people who are COVID deniers and don't want to get the vaccine, by the time they get COVID and they're in the hospital, it's too late. You're already dying.
That's true. So again, it's not so much that I think having the comet destroy the planet and not letting people actually reflect on their actions, you didn't need to do that, but the fact that the movie finds closure everywhere else, I was like, well, I'm really interested to see, what the people actually thought about what happened, because eventually, like Donald Trump, eventually he had to come to terms that he is no longer the president. So Meryl Streep eventually had to come to terms with her actions or something. She was a part of this happening. So I would have liked something there, because it would have had some semblance of actual like interesting conversations. Because this movie every movie that comes after this is trying to be Dr. Strangelove by Stanley Kubrick. That's the tent pole that they're all trying to capture. And that movie succeeded because it was very simple. This movie felt like doom scrolling the movie. Like you're on Twitter and there's a new topic. Oh, there's Ariana Grande. Oh, there's Timothy Chalamet. And it was just doom scrolling with all these current news. And that doesn't have the same narrative drive or momentum or focus that a narrative should have. But Timothy Chalamet, I will say, he was the only other thing besides that one cameo and J-Law that was like, okay, there's something here. There's a morsel there. But he's a great actor, which is why.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
He had a small part.
Yeah.
Any other cast standouts? I would say Leo, and I think Jonah Hill was good with what he was given.
I enjoyed everyone. I thought everyone, like, for the part that they played, they were all very good. Cate Blanchett was fun, as she always is. Jennifer Lawrence was amazing. Timothy Chalamet was really good. I thought he was actually, like, very, very good. So I was happy with him in this. Leonardo DiCaprio was good, obviously. Meryl Streep and Jonah Hill, such fun, like, really, really good. I particularly enjoyed Jonah Hill's performance, like with the bag over the head. I thought that was really funny.
That was a fun bag.
I thought that was great.
No, I thought that was pretty. Oh, give that. That was a funny gag. But Jennifer Lawrence, again, she can sell it. She's a great actor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. You know, I completely understand everything Anthony says. I just guess I disagree with it. I just saw it a different way. And that's totally fine, everyone. That's fine.
Yeah.
It feels so odd for me to be on this side and you on that side.
Yeah.
Argument. But I think we had a very respectful conversation. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I respect you, Ben. And Jack.
Respect you too.
Respect all around.
Respect you.
All around. I guess Oscar chances here. I would say it's getting into picture, probably into screenplay, editing. Maybe Leo gets in, and that's about all I would say right now. Score too.
If it gets into picture, it will be the first movie since Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close to be Best Picture nominated and have a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. So a decade.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
fresh.
I think picture, screenplay, editing, hopefully, because I thought that was really good. That's mainly a personal thing of mine. Song, score. Yeah. Song, score. I'd love to see Jennifer Lawrence nominated, but again, the Best Actress category has too many people in it for her to be competitive. So I'm happy she's nominated for the Golden Globes. But screenplay, I'd love to see. Screenplay, director. No, that's screenplay, picture, editing, score, song. Probably it. I
would agree with all those. Yeah.
I would agree with. I think all of those. And then I would, if I'm still doubting. I think it's very hard for like a Peter Dinklage to get in there, given that he's never nominated before, and Cyrano is a smaller movie. So I would not be surprised if Leo also gets in there because he was nominated for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He won for Revenant. He was nominated for Wolf of Wall Street. The last time he didn't get in was Django Unchained, and that was only because Christoph Waltz and Samuel L. Jackson were also competing in the same category for the same movie, and Christoph Waltz got in and won. He's not competing against any other person from Don't Look Up. So I would say I might predict him. I think he's that fifth or fourth spot. I might put him higher than Denzel, honestly.
Yeah. I hated him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's the reason I think that movie's so drag, and I disliked him so much. I didn't even think he was funny. Like the way you feel about Don't Look Up, I feel about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that movie's just a big crock of shit, and I hate it so much. And I hate what it's trying to say. I think it's the exactly wrong way to do that movie, but he's still got nominated for it. So I just think they won't not nominate Leonardo DiCaprio anymore, which is why I think he does have a strong chance. That's why I've always predicted, even when this film didn't even look likely. So maybe I think that's correct.
On Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I really like Leo's performance in it. I would say he has a shot. Yeah, opposites all around.
Opposites all around. We agree on Promising Young Woman, Ben, and I, Tanya.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of movies Ben and I agree on.
Sound of Metal.
There's a lot out there, but it's always. I much prefer these fun debates. They're a lot of fun.
Definitely.
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
So scores, guys.
I would give it. What did I give it? I have 4 stars on Letterboxd. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it was very entertaining. I'll give it an 8.
Ben, would you like to go?
No, you go. It's okay. Give the low one.
A 1.3.
Ooh, that's gonna drop the average.
I'd give it a 9.
9.
So our average score is 6.1.
That's
I'll take
passing.
it. That's fresh.
Oh, yeah.
Which, is kind of the same as the tomato score. So I think
It's close. Yeah.
it's pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a fun movie. I had a great time. I was honestly blown away by it. So I really enjoyed it. I had a great Christmas day watching it. So it worked for me.
Ben, did you like Adam McKay's other works, right? You did?
Loved.
Okay. Because I was just wondering, maybe like it was you had lower expectations and then you liked it more, but no, you had high expectations.
Nope, sky high. This was like my second most anticipated movie of the year with Halloween Kills. So
I had low expectations.
It lived up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And
So that's Don't Look
we
Up.
all thought different things. That's Don't Look Up, everyone.
Yeah, all around. But look up at the end of the day. Yeah, that's the message. Since we don't have much time left, let's quickly. I think everyone has for the category spotlight, Best Picture. Quick updates there. I think everyone has the same top 9, or mostly all around, right? Belfast, Dune, Don't Look Up. What are the other ones? Belfast, Dune, Don't Look Up, Licorice Pizza, Power of the Dog, Coda, Tick Tick Boom. What am I missing?
West Side Story.
King Richard, West Side Story. Yes. So those are the top 9. What do you guys have in your 10 spot sneaking in?
I have The Lost Daughter, but I'm not confident about it.
I also have The Lost Daughter, and I'm also not confident that 4 Netflix movies will get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Maybe Drive.
Nightmare Alley's really not performing, so
No,
I don't
think that's going to happen.
No.
It got snubbed at the Oscar shortlist, like many places it should have gotten not shortlisted for.
The fact that it didn't get score, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it should get nominated, so I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I think Lost Daughter, maybe Drive My Car. I don't think House of Gucci's out of this. I still think it could Bohemian Rhapsody this thing. And then don't discount Spider-Man. It could happen.
I would say also don't discount No Time to Die. Because that overperformed at the short lists. It got in places that I didn't think it would. And I think it could get nominated in multiple texts like visual effects, score, song, sound. Could sneak in all of those.
I think it'll get the PGA as well.
Probably, yeah. I think that him and Spider-Man are fighting for the PGA spot.
My thing with that is that Skyfall didn't get in, and people love Skyfall. I feel like people love Skyfall more than No Time to Die. So the fact that didn't get in means that, like, No Time to Die. But again, you can make the argument that Avengers Endgame didn't get in, so Spider-Man maybe doesn't. So you can make that argument with any of these long franchises. It's always the one that gets in, and the previous sequels I feel like shouldn't necessarily be used. But I feel like Spider-Man and Avengers are very what they're, Avengers was this 10-year, 11-year culmination. Spider-Man is this like savior of movie theaters. At least that's the narratives that they're spinning. Skyfall and No Time to Die are different films as well. So just something to.
Yeah. So those
point being, the only legacy franchise that should be nominated is Halloween Kills. This is what we all want. It's what we deserve.
Kyle Richards, Best Supporting Actress.
Could you imagine?
I haven't seen that movie.
I had fun.
Your loss. It's fun. It is really fun. That's the one thing I'll say about Halloween Kills. Pure fun.
I mean, I would nominate Halloween Kills before Belfast, before King Richard, and before Don't Look Up in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Really?
That's honestly
fair enough. I think with the amount of blood they used, they could have got makeup. That film actually has the world record for most amount of blood used, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's how much blood they used. So that would have been fun. But it didn't happen, and we're going to move on.
Again, back to our thing about, I think there shouldn't be a difference between best and favorite. If you love it, and it's worth it. I put it nominated for best
the way that The way they recreated Donald Pleasance's face was actually really like that was an achievement. That was makeup. That wasn't visual effects.
Yeah.
Like that was deadly.
Halloween Kills and Titan have one thing in common, and it's that they were missed on the short list.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's this week's episode of Weekly Oscar Talk. Lots to talk about. We had a fun time. And tune in next week for plenty of other stuff to talk about. Lost Daughter, end of the year talk. We will have our own award stuff coming soon once we've seen everything. All that fun stuff. Like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for watching.